which actually carries that essence of that quality, that whole one, two quotes. So, and a sense of all the quotes which we read was that to be courage is to feel it in every cell of our body, in every part of our being, without a shudder, without having any doubt on our limitations or upcoming challenges or, temporary failures in life. To face everything, I remember what Sri Aurobindo and the mother have said about courage. And an image which comes in front of my eyes when I see courage is that a candle lighting the other. So courage is very, very deeply a quality which I feel is not an individual thing to hold. It's a collective. We pass on the baton, we pass on that, flame of faith to one another. And this is what embodies courage. So, yeah. So mother says that one has courage can give courage to another. So this is how it goes. It's like a chain reaction, which manifests in that collective space. So yeah, it is in brief, which I can just touch on the sense of courage, what Sri Aurobindo and the mother have said. Then I would love to, first share our entire journey of being with this quality of courage. So 3 of us have been, blessed to be, sadhaks on this path with the mother symbol, which has these 12 petals, the 12 qualities. And so we have been going through sincerity, humility, gratitude, receptivity, aspiration, progress, and courage. So very interestingly, it happens every time that whenever a quality happens, it is actually the need of the hour. So I remember, so coincidentally, it happens that when we began with courage, it was very, very the time when second wave of this pandemic happened to be. And like all of us are part of it, all of us have gone through it in our personal and, shared experiences. So it was a very difficult time, like end mid of April to, begin initial months of the May, I remember very clearly. So that was the time when this quality emerged in our circle. And how did we collectively live this quality was the very essence which I shared just a few seconds before, by holding spaces for one another, by holding it together, despite having, individual obstacles and individual, places and, challenges in life. A very, very joyful part of, this integral yoga psychology of Sri Aurobindo is that it is about individual progress, but it happens within this sacred collective space. So we actually could feel so much together, so much intimately intertwined together in this quality of courage. It was nothing about the individual, actually, it was more about holding spaces for each other. So to briefly just touch upon how did we go about it. So we had holding spaces for, illness. So this was this question coming, like every research is, being updated. Nobody knows how to, face a pandemic. What is this illness all about? Like how people are getting the virus. So it's a very logical question, or I would say a very, like, science has this very partial way of seeing the things. So we began with this compilation on illness. So illness and health was a compilation which all of us, held together. And in that, just to share a bit of it, we got this sense that there is each and every cell of a body which catches the illness. It is not just about taking outward, precautions, like so-called sanitizing and all of that is important. However, how do we catch any pathogen or any virus? So in that, the mother says that there is this nervous envelope covering our body, covering ourselves, and even a bit of fear can actually prick it and enter into it. So what we all read about, in literature also, that it is fear which is the root of everything which disturbs us. So fear leads to anxiety and so on and so forth. So how to protect this nervous envelope was, again, questions which we used to, get answers from. So the mother very, very gently says that it is faith. It is faith which keeps the cells together. It is faith which actually, helps us go through, these emotional ups and downs, because we can't control our emotions. We can't control fear entering, but we can protect. So rather than struggling with fear, let's protect and embrace it in a way of, I would say, in a covering of faith. So just like very simply people say, faith versus fear. So it was this faith and this faithful surrender, which are some of the keywords which I remember, which we, came about as a collective. Then after this compilation, in order to strengthen this faith, now, one thing leads to another. Nothing is segregated or, very fragmented. So I remember Priya making very beautiful flower mandalas. So she used to offer flower mandalas in our group every day. So these beautiful, soft flower mandalas Priya used to offer. And this was how, faith as, fluid, not only in just that simple WhatsApp group, but also in our lives. So we say that flowers heal. So this is how it went. Another way in which we tried to instill courage as a collective was to read, the life of Sri Aurobindo when he was in Uttarpara jail. So he was in 1 year, imprisonment before he came to Pondicherry. That was a very, very major, drastic, development in his own sadhana. So we began this quality with reading his speech. What did he had to share to the world after he came, from the prison life? So Tales of Prison Life is a very short book, which we read individually. So I wouldn't want to open it and share, so we can go with it further. But it was this one message which he received from this inner light, from this inner spirit about holding courage for oneself and just lighting it to one another. Another thing was we holding space for Savitri. So Savitri is another sacred text of Sri Aurobindo. So it is a poem and more than a poem. So we had a space of holding on courage, aspiring for courage through Savitri. So through poetry, music, and painting, through colors, we held the space of courage. And it was a very, very subtle and very beautiful experience of opening Savitri through courage. So yeah, in brief, these were the collective practices which we had as a group. Yes, and I would say, just to, brief it again, holding each other is the biggest practice which we can do in life. So that was what all about. I remember Priya, motivating all of us to read together, to meet twice a week. Let's just, be there. Don't skip our calls. Kamini talking about the body and other things. So yes, this was about our, collective journey. I can now touch upon the individual journeys. So I guess Kamini and Priya are, not here. So I can briefly talk about my own personal journey through courage, which is not very, very different from what we had in the collective. So to put it in simple words, the key insights. So one key insight which I had in this journey of courage, and it is not just about when we held this space together, right now also it's going on and on, is that insight about imperfections. So whenever we, like, all of us are imperfect, we know. But how do we take it is the thing, is the question to ask. How to take one's imperfections. So sometimes what we do is we try to over-identify ourselves with our imperfections, saying that, oh, I'm so bad, I'm so wrong person. I'm on a spiritual path, but see, I did wrong. I think so wrong about this person. I'm so hypocrite. Like all of these questions keep on cropping up. However, through this journey, I felt that it is such a courageous step to take imperfections, to see imperfections in a new way. Like to put it again in small words, it would be like imperfection as like these tiny openings within us for this light to enter, for this growth to happen. This is how I see imperfections as now. So basically it's like any difficulty or any imperfection is like this opportunity where this spotlight is there on that particular imperfection. Take it as any other habit, any bad habit which we have. So we knowing about our bad habits, we knowing about our imperfection is the first blessing. Sometimes I feel that it is in the spotlight. Okay, zoom, now see. So this awareness, and then slowly comes acceptance when we know that, okay, I'm not just my imperfection, I'm a holistic being. So I can distance myself from it a bit. Don't over-identify. However, this is not a complete story. Not just we over-identify sometimes, we also project our own imperfections. When we, engage in this blame game, we find conclusions, we find logic. Okay, there is a problem in my life. Who is to blame? This person, this place. Oh, I have not done anything. My past is to blame. So the mind has this habit of jumping to conclusions. And when we blame, we miss on this opportunity to work because nobody can do it for ourselves. Neither the past change, neither a place come to us and say, oh, sorry, I was wrong. Neither a person accept. So this very sense of having imperfection is very beautiful. Like, yeah, so many opportunities to progress. The more imperfections I face, the more opportunities to overcome them and be a better version or an updated software, I would say, of our own selves. So yeah, this was the key insight. And again, to pick progress is another quality of the mother. So mother's qualities are like tied together so beautifully that when I am in courage, I'm also under progress. I can also see myself, okay, here I can work. So progress helps encourage and so on. Then learnings. Okay, so learnings, the key learning in the journey of courage for me is to see how my speech plays a role in my life. So I have this habit of speaking so much. Sometimes like I can talk for hours and hours. I can still talk for hours and hours. So, and I could see that, this habit or this strength actually, like this strength to speak and be confident and to actually articulate things is not going very well. I could see its impact on my concentration. Like I actually dissipating a lot of energy and, becoming tired after speaking. Like what it is? I myself chose it, but why am I getting tired? Why am I not able to finish my tasks on time? So this strength came as a big learning. So one of my mentors says that our strengths are our hindrances. So this actually fits so well in my own life. This was my biggest hindrance for progress, for my work, for my concentration, for everything in life. So I was not able to use all that energy in the right direction, despite having a lot of it. So why, like again, a question again comes like how strength can become a hindrance. So the background of it, what I have understood till now, it's not a complete understanding, is that sometimes we over attach ourselves with our strengths, with the way we are. There is a sort of identity. Okay, this is how I am. This is how I should be. So we have this, very, with time, our personality crystallizes in a form that we over-identify with. If we go a bit wayward with it, we feel, no, it's not me. No, I should be like that. So this And this becomes a very rigid thing. And we get stagnated sometimes. And this is very much a product of the past, because what we are right now is the how past has been, joined together. So I see as a child, I was like that. I was being, very much congratulated for being, speaking this way or whatever. So having a fixed identity is a problem, and this hampers progress a lot. What we say in, modern terms, the entire world is saying that, be in the present, mindful and meditation. But if our identity is not in present, how will we in present? Like, this is so much connected to our identity, how we see ourselves. So a very short, learning which I had in this regard was that one should not take oneself as, a fixed entity, even if it is good in the eyes of society. That's very paradoxical. Being good is not enough. Evolving is, the aspiration. We get stagnated when we are trapped in our own identity, things. So yes, this was about my learning this journey. And it's so interesting that just a few minutes before I was talking about weaknesses, and now I'm talking about my strengths. So weaknesses are not weaknesses, strengths are actually not strengths, when we see the way Sri Aurobindo and the mother have put their psychology. Okay, now the last thing which I can share is that how to go about with this now. Now I know that, okay, my speech is a hindrance, but how to go about it? How to maybe just work on it in simple words. So we choose practices, as Palak shared. How? So first is this awareness, okay, there is something. Then, acceptance, and now action time. So how to act? So I chose a practice of being conscious of my speech and just asking myself whenever I'm, about to bombard a lot of words in front of my friends, especially, that why am I saying that? What is the intention behind it? Is the intention to, show off my articulation and poetically organizing skills? Or the intention is just to share what I have within me? Or is the intention to prove somebody wrong? So these are like different whys of our, and they, change with the content, obviously, of what we speak. So be conscious of the speech was a conscious practice which I chose, and a tool in integral yoga, which everybody of us is aware of. How this tool helped me to get conscious of my speech was silence. And silence has now come to me. So I'm so blessed that, okay, yes, silence has come to me, that it was not something I forced. Because sometimes when we know so much, we try to force spirituality. Okay, yeah, one has to be silent. Yes, one has to meditate. Yes. But it's about receptivity. If one is not open enough, one cannot receive anything. So receptivity is another mother's quality. Very interesting quality again. So when I was receptive enough, when I was aware, okay, now this speech is the whole thing, whole circus which is happening in my life, which is so much reinforced by all of my friends. My friends know it. They enjoy me speaking. But that is a problem in my path. So silence came, and this inner silence came, and the concentration slowly and slowly opened its way. Basically, concentration is the gift we receive when one is in silence. And another very, very beautiful thing which is so close to silence is patience. Sometimes I feel that when silence deepens, patience blooms. It's not very difficult to hold on, basically. Holding on to the pandemic, holding on to challenges of day-to-day life. It's not easy. Oh, sorry, it's not difficult when one is in inner silence. And I must say, and I will end, that I have not still, been there with silence yet. It is everyday thing, everyday, conscious effort to watch my speech, because it is a very, very integral part of me. It's part of my habit, and habits don't break in months or 2 months. So the mother's qualities can't change anybody in a month or two. One has to be there. One has to hold on to it. and then everything integrates. And this is how Sri Aurobindo's integral psychology integrates our parts of it. So yes, this is about my sharing for today. I won't speak much. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Pooja. Priya, do you want to go next?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I got a bit disconnected due to internet issues in the first half. Yes, Pooja has already updated a lot of things about our collective journey, and now she shared her personal experience. So I would like to uh, share my personal experience with 2-3 quotes, and then the practices. So the quotes that lived with me during this journey, and how these practices that had just, I wouldn't say it was actually, a very mentally chosen practice, but, somehow during that journey, it just happened. So one quote: courage is the total absence of fear in any form. Fear is an impurity, one of the greatest impurities, one of those which come most directly from the anti-divine forces which want to destroy the divine action on earth. And the first duty of those who really want to do yoga is to eliminate from their consciousness, with all the might, all the sincerity, all the endurance of which they are capable, even the shadow of a fear. So basically, I would say that during our journey, that was when, this pandemic had really risen to the top in India. And, collectively and personally also, like, uh, the aspect of fear, and then how to hold on to the courage, not just for the personal space, but also for the collective. Because as you speak in any sangha, any place, everybody is affected one way or the other by their, by themselves or their relatives or whoever, like, with this pandemic. So, so this practice, what I kind of, so it had started, I'd started it just before that because I've been doing some breathwatch practices. So, so basically holding this essence of courage was trying to do dynamic practice of breathwatch and connecting to the heart, cave of the heart. And so I've been doing that. Initially I started like, okay, 15 minutes, morning, afternoon, evening kind of a thing. But slowly I understand that, it just started to become more and more dynamic. And it started to kind of evolve as and when. So initially I was holding for others. Actually, I felt that mother was testing me by giving a personal experience, personal scenario, like putting my sister and family in the same situation with the corona and all that. So you could see that, how that fear comes in, and then, widening yourself like with the breath. So breath watch and connecting, that's something which, was something very prominent in me, like both parts, the light and the shadow part, I would say, So with that, there is this quote from the mother. I remember that once we spoke of courage as one of the perfections, but this courage means having a taste for the supreme adventure. And this taste of supreme adventure takes hold of you completely and flings you without calculation and without reserve and without a possibility of withdrawal into a great adventure of the divine discovery, the great adventure of the divine meeting, the yet greater adventure of the divine realization. You throw yourself into the adventure without looking back and without asking for a single minute what's going to happen. For if you ask what's going to happen, you never start. You always remain stuck there, rooted to the spot, afraid to lose something, to lose your balance. So this is something I kind of felt flowing. Like, once you are in that adventure, yeah, you might have, you might tend to go back, but then again there's something that takes you back, and you really want to be in that adventure of the divine realization. And there's a lot of courage that's needed in this journey. So that fear, absence of fear, that purity of courage, so that's something which was something, at least glimpses of which I could see through my journey. And the last, I think Pooja mentioned in the first intro, there's this whosoever has courage can give courage to others, just as the flame of the candle then light up another. So that is like towards the middle and like when we really had that part of everybody getting into fear and panic and all that. So this was one quote that stayed very, very, very prominently. And I remember, one or two of our, there's another group where we were part of the Swadharma winter school. So I remember, a couple of them had real, panic and really getting very low. And it by suggesting, like for me, I took up this, like we had this collective reading of mother's, like a collection of quotes. It's illness and health. So there was something which we read together. And also this prison tales, Sri Aurobindo's book, his experience of the jail life. So so this was something like, while we read, while we imbibe that equanimity, the way his surrender, like, and even in that illness and faith, like the book Illness and Health. One thing is, like personally, I whatever I knew or whatever we held together was something that we could pass it on to others by motivating others to read and together read a few quotes and stay with that essence of courage. And I kind of see that right now we're doing goodness, the quality of goodness, which is started. Initially, I was not able to understand how goodness is flowing, but now I see it's an extension of courage, because there is a lot of love, like courage and love, that comes in that selfless aspect and the surrender aspect, which is very, very, very like you can sense that in this quality. So that's something which I'm kind of now observing. And yeah, that's about it. I would say, in a nutshell, that I was kind of doing in the practice. Like, what if you ask me some shift, that's where I see now that fear, and how mother just puts you in helps you to walk on the path. And I actually felt that there was a ground that was being created, because right now going through some of the personal challenges in life, where it also means something to do with near to death kind of thing. I just see that what we have been prepared for is something we can always continue to do. So this journey is never just a 42 days, or it's been our experience for all these qualities we've done so far. Like Pooja explained, like we've been doing these qualities, and now we've reached this goodness. So that's what. So courage is there everywhere, like any other quality, like sincerity or gratitude or receptivity or aspiration. So yeah, with a lot of gratitude and a lot of love to all, and thanks a lot for listening to us. I don't know.
Thank you so
Kamini
much.
is there. Palak is Kamini
I think she's not able to join in.
able to? Yeah.
Or no, yeah, she's unable to join in. So I think we can now have like any sharing from the other participants, or if there are any questions I see. Shivam has a question for Pooja. can you share your views on how do these activities like art and music help in developing courage? So I think, yeah, this is a quite interesting aspect that Pooja touched upon, that they kind of, explored the quality of courage through Savitri and lines of Savitri, and then going deeper through colors, through painting, and through music. So, Pooja, do you want to talk?
Yeah, so the first thing the first word which comes to me when you say music and art is joy. So a lot of joy. And, what I have experienced despite being so into energy is that when one is in sheer joy, one doesn't need any external, aid or support to feel it or to have it. Basically, joy comes, like joy, it's like that, it's just there. And when you just tap it, it's like it becomes a hobby. You don't need any other person to participate. You can just share joy. You cannot generate joy. Like joy is like that. So what I have experienced is that, like, music and, poetry and art, it instills a space within us which says that it is already there. It is so beautiful. Like I feel a connection. Every creative thing on this planet has come from nature. Poets have opened nature for all of us. You know, uh, you know, musicians have, sensed nature, its own vibrations, and this is how they create music. So it is not this inner or their own, I would say rhythms. It is a rhythm which is there in the natural, which is, I think, shared by people who receive it. So yeah, this is how I can put it. So yeah, when there is joy, there is peace, there is completeness. And when there is completeness, you don't have to worry. So this is how I can connect courage to joy. Like when I have nothing to worry about, I am very courageous to face everything the way it comes to me. So this is how I have felt. Like I personally enjoy so much of rain. So I have felt being complete with rain. I don't need anything else. So yes, thank you. Thank you for asking.
So, from the other participants, are there any other questions, or does anybody want to share anything? All right. So, if there are no questions, then can I request Ram to share the link for subscription to the IE portal newsletters in case you're interested in receiving the practices those puja and yeah, practices such as those Pooja and Priya kind of shared around all the other qualities that we have been sending newsletters for. In case there are any follow-up questions, or in case you're interested in knowing more, feel free to write to us. We'll be sharing our email ID. You would already have received confirmation email. So feel free to write back to us, and we are really happy to share any other material that would help you deepen into these qualities.
Pala, I would like to ask one question.
Sure. Go ahead, Ram.
So, it was actually a completely new perspective when I heard that courage is holding space for another person. So, can you elaborate a bit on that? Because holding space always referred compassion to me, but this is kind of new perspective to me. Can you, yeah, and I'm embarking on a space where this is going to happen, and I'm in a situation to do it. So I would like to know more on that.
Priya, would you answer this? Because you are an epitome of holding spaces in our circle. So would you?
Yeah, Ram. Okay, I don't know if I can explain it in that sense of it. I would try. Um, okay, when I say holding space, or like holding the essence of courage, so one way is like, I think there is this element of like when you are in that, like when the person is in a difficulty, and there is a fear and panic. um, as I told you, like the practice that I've been doing, and it's not just the courage time, like the breath watch has been there. I've been doing this breath watch and holding on to the heart center. So I think holding these qualities very close to the heart, like very deep into the heart, and just allowing that quality to just be there. And especially in the presence of the person, if it is I felt that some shift happens, like. And it's also sometimes a collective, like we are there as a collective, like three of us were together, and we kind of go through certain things and share some of our experiences, and that collective energies kind of brings in that shift, especially when we are so when with that concentration of that quality. There is that essence of quality. So maybe it's that impurity of fear that we are trying to get rid, because there's that rejection element in us. So yeah, initially maybe it started a little bit like a mental thing, but then as you go deeper, so for me it's about deep rooted in the physical, like getting deeper and deeper. And yeah, and as it started coming, like I've heard a couple of people say that yeah, just because, and there's also an element of self giving, or going beyond what you can, like, because maybe I might have been in a very difficult thing where I'm with my personal panic, there's something. But if you can go beyond that, then widen yourself, it really affects the other person. It actually touches the other person when, and you don't even come to know only when the other person says, oh, that was really good that you just held space for me, or you checked on me. And that's how I kind of see that. And I also, as I said, we've also been trying to motivate people with whatever we have read, like the illness and health, and even the Prison Tales book. And we've heard few people say, come back to us and say that it touched them, maybe not in the way it has touched each one of us, but it really touched in a different way, and there was a shift. So yeah, this is the way I can explain. I do not know whether it makes real sense to you. Yeah.
I can add to what Priya said, Ram, if you want to listen a bit more. So, this, so I have personally experienced it just 2 days back. So it's a very fresh observation. As Priya said, this first, it begins with this mental thing. So sometimes the mind, like I think for me, it's always mind wants to be in a safer space, this comfort zone. So whenever we have to do something for the other, we think it requires a lot of effort. We have expectations. We see bahut time waste ho jayega, so much of time. Is the person even ready to, receive that? And other things. However, when we see courage and holding spaces, and how to hold spaces for one another, I feel that when the mind is clear of its own purpose, that again, why am I doing it? Am I doing it for myself, or am I doing for this higher purpose which I have in my life? So when this clarity is there, so recently I was like very worried, again quoting the direct example, very worried about my dissertation not happening. Oh God, pandemic and all of that, who will do it? Such a difficult thing to do, working with cancer patients. However, I just wrote into my note, I physically wrote, clear your purpose. Your purpose is to serve. Your purpose is to not finish this dissertation. Your purpose is to serve a population which you have very passionate about. Clear the purpose. And Ram, very magically, I found 4 patients that day. So everything just flows when the purpose is clear. So, and Priya has this love as her way. She might not say it, but what I have experienced is that her love opens everything and makes everything so easy for her to do so much of things, despite having her personal challenges.
Thank you. Priya, it made sense actually.
Yeah, thanks, Ram.
Sure, Nikhil, go on.
So thank you so much for explaining it so wonderfully. I have just one question, like how much courage is courage? Like sometimes in the name of courage, there is also a kind of rebel, and it may be courageous for us, or the things that we are doing for ourselves, we'll find it like very courageous in our levels, but for the other person, it can be very disastrous. So how can we balance this, or how can we keep a check or a anchor with this quality?
Thank you for asking this in this way. Like it seems to me like when courage has consequences. So uh, this I'm not in a place to open this question because it is a very, very, very important question, Nikhil. Thank you so much. Uh, when you were saying what thing came to me, it's the mother's saying on courage that don't confuse courage with rashness. It has its seat and calmness. So this was the biggest opening of courage in our Sangha, that it is not about this physical force, this struggle to do something, possibly to come out of a very, very negative space, also has a way. How do we go about it? Do we just shed everything off and just make a noise? Or we just say it once? No. And like sometimes the way we do things is different than what we do. The what might seem very similar externally. However, when it has a space of calmness and a clear calmness, I would say, clarity of calmness, yes, this is the answer and this is the thing I have to do. I think people can get offended or affected temporarily, but if they are also receptive enough, they will understand it in the long run. Sometimes not everybody can convince everybody at the same time. That is why we are different individuals. So I think having clarity of one's own calling is important rather than considering each and every consequence or outcome, which is a barrier to courage. Yeah, this is how I see. Calmness is the mother's way of courage, and I love the mother for bringing calmness as courage into her lives.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just to add on, I think, yes, I kind of see that, because even the supreme adventure that we kind of say is about, that courage to be in the journey, in that, that path of divine realization. And to me, there's a lot of love that's needed, that selfless love. And there's this quote: the noblest courage is to recognize one's faults. So I guess, that also, that's a courageous thing. And then when we deal with others, I think it all changes, because you see, a lot of, the mirror part. And so that's something. And and what Pooja said, like for us, it's been this calm and assured thing, where mother talks about the integral courage, whatever the domain, whatever the danger, the attitude remains the same, calm and assured. So So that's something that once you root yourself in that calmness and peace, then the outer actions becomes much more meaningful. And with this aspect of love, like courage and love are two qualities mother says which are indispensable for progress. So yeah, so that's where I think we explored it in that way, as Pooja rightly said. More than that warrior aspect of, I guess the warrior aspect of the thing, that also mother talks about it. But I guess, yeah, with this inner strength and this love that emanates, I think the outer actions becomes much more powerful and intense. Maybe not in the way we kind of envisage, but it just happens. That's how I kind of see that, Nikhil.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I think we did get to hear a lot of fresh perspectives on courage.
Can I say something?
Any other questions? Yeah.
Yes. Can I add, please, something? Just a little bit from what I experience and understand. Holding space, someone just asked, it would also be, I think, holding space not only with oneself and the other person, but also to do it with an attitude of not being judgmental towards oneself or the other person, accepting also oneself, because I think the hardest thing that we experience when we find a weakness in ourselves is to whiplash ourselves and to get critical and beat ourselves against, for what we have discovered within ourselves. So I think holding space is also something which we have to do with a lot of sincerity with ourselves, and accept and understand that this is a process and there is no point being judgmental or being angry about something that we have discovered within ourselves. And I think once we go through that, I think it becomes easier to hold space with the other person who may be sharing something which may be very alarming or very different from your own viewpoint or values. And I think to cultivate that aspect of acceptance and a non-judgmental attitude, I think would be very beneficial. Just adding my thoughts on this. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. We can all take a moment before we log off. It was really nice to have everybody as we have this beautiful evening. Sharing. Thank you so much, everyone. Wish you a very nice evening.